Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? I hope it's okay now. Hello, welcome. Hello, can one of you confirm if it is okay? Hello. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Everything fine. Welcome to the third session of Samkhya 101. I will go to my slides. So we are in the third session, and let us summarize what we have discussed last week. That Kapil had argued that innate nature of a thing is part of the thing. You know, the everything has its own characteristics, and what is very natural to that thing is always sticking to that. You cannot take it away from that. The thing and its nature are one and the same. If its nature changed, then it will not be the thing yet. So certain things have certain very inherent nature, and that is always there. That is what makes that thing look like that thing. Like a wood is wood because it has characteristics of wood. If it didn't have characteristics of wood, it will not be wood. So that being the case, and the Vedas enjoin us to seek liberation, not be the innate nature of the soul. So as far as a human being is concerned, my consciousness is my soul, and I am not by nature, it is not natural to me to remain bonded. If it was there, then why should there be so much of teaching about getting liberation, getting away from the bondage? So, bondage is me bonded to something which is made of matter, and that very first thing is what is called our buddhi or chitta. So, Kapil is going to discuss that this bonding, this me coming in contact with my buddhi is not my inherent nature. It has somehow happened, and that is what we will be discussing why it happened and so on and so forth. Now he's saying because it is not my innate nature to get bonded to the chitta or buddhi, then I am seeking liberation. And of course, this is a something in deep in everybody's mind. We want to seek that liberation, and that's what the Vedas are telling us. So it requires a supreme effort, different from the personal and philanthropic efforts. So we do all kinds of karma. Those karma gives us some reward, but Kapil is trying to say that those rewards which are coming from the all kinds of actions that we get in, whether it is a selfish actions where we seek a reward for an action, and there are some people who go for higher order karma, they do selfless action. So both the kinds of actions cannot bring that reward, namely liberation. So that is what we had discussed, and now we move on to one point. Yeah. Last week there were two sections. That was 1.1 to 1.11. Then 1.12 to 1.25, we said that soul is bonded to matter. Soul is called Purush and matter is Prakriti. And what is the cause of that bondage is avivek. Uh, here you will recall that we were emphasizing this point that I am bonded to the matter, that's what mind is made of, but the matter is not cause of my bondage, it is merely the means of my bondage. Then I gave an example like somebody overpowers me, he is more powerful physically, and when I am sitting on a chair, he ties me with a rope. Now that is my bondage. I have been bonded to the chair by means of a rope. The rope is now the means of the bondage and is not cause of the bondage. Cause of the bondage was the other person who was more powerful. He merely used the rope to bind me on the chair. So you will appreciate that avivek avivek is absence of the understanding, absence of the wisdom, lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. So that is what is avivek. That is the cause of bondage. The means of bondage is the matter, that I get bonded to the matter, which is what my mind is. Now, the nature of avivek needs to be understood, because if I don't quite know what is it, then I cannot get rid of it. And that is what is liberation, that how do I get away from avivek, which is the lack of supreme wisdom. So he is saying is not an independent entity. He gives an example of light and darkness. So as you enter into a room, it is really dark, and if you switch on the lamp, then that darkness is vanished. Now in the process, the room which was dark, now it is brightened. This change has come because of appearance of light. Now appearance of light has killed the darkness. Now the darkness was not itself an independent entity. If it was, then as you switch on the light, you should be seeing the darkness going away from a door or from a window, but nobody sees the darkness going. So darkness is not quite a thing. It is merely the absence of light. That point has to be understood. So darkness itself is not an independent entity. It is merely that there is no light, hence it is dark there. That is what is the example he is trying to give to us to understand the nature of our vivek, that lack of supreme wisdom. What is it? It is not itself an entity, it is merely the lack of the true wisdom, true knowledge. That is called vivek. If vivek is there, there will not be avivek. So that's what is mentioned here. It disappears when vivek is gained. Vivek is that supreme wisdom. That is what was the starting point of his book, Atyant Purusharth. What is that greatest absolute effort we want to make? We want to make absolute effort to gain that vivek, that supreme wisdom, and that vivek is a wonderful thing. But as soon as that is gained, our vivek will vanish. Just like if the room has the light, the darkness vanishes. So it is said when vivek is gained, as in the case of darkness is removed by light. This is not gained by hearsay. Now, this is another important point. I may read a lot of books, I may hear all kinds of everybody's teachings. Yes, I am. So, Vivek is that I am Purush, different from the matter. That is what my mind is made of. Where my mind is made of Prakriti. So, Purush and Prakriti are two distinctly different entities. This is the supreme wisdom Kapil is trying to tell us to gain. Now, somebody say, I have read a lot of books about it, so I know about it. But then Patanjali says, no, no, this has to be gained experientially. So, then I gave an example of an apple pie. You read 200 pages of a nice color book on apple pie, but if you have not read it, you don't know what it is. So, if you have not eaten it, if you have not tasted it, so that's what is seeing is believing. So, in that situation where I am residing in my shell of my mind, unless I see myself and my mind, that is what self realization is, that is what is Vivek Khyati in the language of Kapil's Sankhya. Unless I have gained that in a direct experiential manner, I haven't gained that wisdom. So that is what is Patanjali Kapil's teaching. And let's move further. So we had covered about 25 sutras. So we are going slightly fast track, but I'm trying my best not to compromise on the main essential aspects of Kapil's teaching. So because we have about 12 sessions and this is covered in 6 chapters. So first chapter is quite longish with 100 plus statements. So we have covered about 25. We may spend 5 to 6 weeks on first chapter, then 2 or 3 weeks on second, 2 weeks on third, summarize fourth, fifth, and sixth. So that is kind of my plan. Let's move on. Today we are at 1.26, which if I were to just trying to read out the original of it. Yeah, it's a longish and it will take quite some time because this is very important one. So wherever it is very important, I will devote much time. Otherwise, we will be going on a slightly fast track. We are now on 1.26. The statement goes as Sattva rajas tamasam samyavastha pakete. Pakete mahan mahto ahankar. अहंकारात् पंच तन्मात्राणि उभयम् इंद्रियं तन्मात्रेभ्य स्थूल भूतानि पुरुष इति पंचविंशति गण. So it's basically counting 25 elements. So this is very well known statement of Kapil, and he is merely counting 25 elements. That's what I like to show it in a schematic diagram. So what he has said here is Prakriti. This is the primordial. This is a statement he's making that that's how the creation, the universe comes into being. So there are basic 25 entities which we ought to be known to attain liberation. So these are very, very tiny, small subatomic particles, you can say. And let us see what is his postulate is, and then we will discuss it in greater detail. He is saying the matter in its very primary form, what is called primordial state, is called Prakriti. Theoretically, this is not discernible. We can never go to this point. We will never know it theoretically. And the very first derivative of Prakriti is called Mahan. So I haven't used that term here. This is Mahan, where I am putting my cursor here. So that is the very first particle or first principle made out of Prakriti. First, he is saying Satvajas Tamasam Samyavastha Prakriti. What it means is Prakriti is a state of matter when there are three modes, namely Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. They are in equilibrium. So, what we will say is uh, the basic origin here is that as a human being, this is me, my consciousness called Purush. This is translated as soul. This is me, and I am in closest proximity of this is what is called Mahat. But the Kapil has used the term Mahat, and I am translating it as Chitta as well as Buddhi. For time being, this is in English, I will say it is mind screen. This is what I am watching always. So, as we started, probably I said the example is the let's see, go in the webinar room. I gave an example or should have given it that I am a thumb in the fist. So this is me, my soul, and it is surrounded with the shell of mind. And this, the palm, which is what I am always watching. is made of the that very first derivative of Prakriti called Mahan, Mahat, and also we will use the term Chitta as well as Buddhi for this. So there will be many Sanskrit terms, but I hope you will become familiar with them. This is me, the Purush here, and I am enclosed in a shell, and I am always watching this screen, which is what I mentioned in that schematic diagram as a mind screen. And this is what is made of the first particle, namely Mahat. And Mahat is the structure of the particle, structural name, but when it is in this form, it is functioning as Chitta as well as Buddhi. So particle actually is Mahat, but structurally, but functionally it is Chitta as well as Buddhi. Now Patanjali uses this as Chitta, while Kapil will be talking more about Buddhi. And in slightly later course, I will try to tell you why Patanjali calls it Chitta and Kapil calls it Buddhi. That will become clear in this session or in a couple of sessions. Let's move on. So this was to show you this is Purush and very closest is Mahat. And this entire thing we call as mind, the outer layer is called Manas in the language of Kapil, and there is a middle layer that is called Ahankar. So this is the Purush enclosed in a shell of mind as a whole, but mind has three layers. The innermost layer is made out of Mahat. It will be referred to as Chitta as well as Buddhi. The middle layer will be referred to as Ahankar, and functionally that is our memory storage device. That is where we store all our knowledge. And then outer layer is Manas, which are also in English we will translate as mind, but hope it is not confusing because that is what links to the body, organs, etc. etc. So the term mind will be used for the outer layer of Manas as well as the whole integrated mind domain, subtle domain, which consists of three layers. So in context, you will be able to understand when I say mind as a whole domain, it will mean three of these layers: Mahat, which is also Chitta and Buddhi, Ahankar, the middle layer, and the Manas, the outer layer. Sometimes I will use the word mind for just the Manas, the outer layer. I am sorry I am burdening you with a lot of terms, but let's move on. Going back to the slide. So we were looking at that schematic diagram. So what he's saying is the matter, again we have skipped at this point, that matter is in equilibrium insofar its three modes are concerned. So that is what I was trying to explain with my thumb and the fist. So let it make it short so that you have basic understanding of what are these three modes of or three strands of matter. But Kapil has used the term sattva, rajas, and tamas. So that's what I am trying to explain here. If you examine your past 24 hours, you have gone through different experiences, different states. Now, what Kapil is saying is every state of ours is a mix of three primary states, namely sattva, rajas, and tamas. Let's look at sattva as a joyful state, rajas as we are in activity mode, and that becomes a hardship or painful also. When you are doing hard work, it is painful. And tamas is something corresponding to inertia when we are in deep sleep. So, if you look at your past 24 hours, if you are in sleep in deep sleep in night, then tamas, your chitta. Now we are here. I am here, and this is what my chitta is. And all my life experiences are coming to me at my chitta level. So when I am in deep sleep, my chitta is dominated in tamas. It is so much gone into dormancy. It is the inertia has overpowered it that I am feeling sleepy. So as we will wait for some more hours later in the evening, I am overpowered. My chitta is dominated by tamas that I feel sleepy. And throughout the day, I am in a mix of these three states. Sometimes I am very happy, then sattva is dominating. Sometimes I am in energetic, I am running around, then rajas is dominating. And sometimes I am too tired, then tamas is dominating. And all other states are interplay of these three basic stands, basic modes. So that's the description for matter at this point. Now matter in its raw form here is in equilibrium where sattva rajas tamas are in equilibrium. And then the creation gets started that equilibrium is disturbed, and this mahat is made created very first where there are different possibilities. So another example I like to give is if you have three primary colors, namely red, blue, and yellow, then it is said that all the infinite colors can be made out of them in mixing them in different proportions. So look at sattva, rajas, tamas as those three primary states, and their different proportions give rise to all kind of experience that we go through in our day-to-day life. So that's where we are. So that's what was the statement was sattva, rajas, tamas samya avasthapekete. So this is a state where all the three modes are in equilibrium, and that equilibrium is disturbed, and then very first particle is made is mahat, which is what I am showing here. Then he says mahato ahankar. The next is mahan, which is what is here. Yeah, mahan is here. Ahankar is here, derived out of mahan. And then he says ahankarat. Now there is a branching from ahankar. So ahankar is more gross, or I should say mahat is more subtle than ahankar. So mahat, which is here, is the most subtlest particle in the nature, and that is what our chitta or buddhi is made of. Our mind skin is made of. You can look at it from an engineering sense as if this is where the any instantaneous knowledge is displayed, but nothing is stored here. Like a cinema hall screen or your TV monitor, it just displays the instantaneous or video picture. But when you want to store it, the storage device cannot be as subtle as the display device, because display device just has to show you instantaneous image, but the storage device has to store a number of instantaneous images, so that will be a more gross entity, isn't it? So ahankar is more gross, while this is the most subtlest entity. So this is derived out of mahat, out of chit, out of buddhi. We get ahankar, which has ability to store the knowledge, while this had the ability to display the knowledge. And now, as I said, there are two branches. One is in the green and one is then along the red color. This is what are the my instruments as an individual human being. As an individual human being, I have these instruments. So this is the property of the subject who is going to who needs to understand the objects of the world. And the objects of the world are made according to the gain line. So that's what gives rise to five magic numbers. Magic number five. It is basically I have five senses. So five sense organs are here, and there are five gross elements that are amenable, that can be perceived by these five sense organs. So you will see there are five, magic number five is coming four times here. Five sense organs, five motor organs, five subtle elements, five gross elements. All this put together is 20. This is my outer mind, the manas. What I said is the third outer layer of my mind. This was my middle layer of my mind, ahankar. This is the innermost layer of my mind called chitta. So these 20 plus 1, 2, and 3, these three are my three innermost instruments of mind. They become 23. Then Prakriti in its raw form is 24, and the consciousness is 25th. So this is what he is counting as 25 entities, and he says, I must know them in an experiential sense to the best of my ability. Then only I have met the objectives of the human life. This is the Kapil's position, and that's what he's trying to explain. So let's look at it from Ahankar. If you follow the green arrows, there is a transformation from 1 to 5. Now, Ahankar was a very fine particle. Now it has become a matrix of five fine particles. But they are still subtle. This was also subtle, that also continues to remain subtle, but there is a transformation of 1 into 5. They have five different attributes. Following the red color, Ahankar becomes what is called linkage. I have translated as linkage, which is the outer layer of my mind, which has an ability to link up and acquire incoming knowledge from five senses. And also it can activate five motor organs. These are the sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, which bring in knowledge in the incoming mode, and one of them at a time is picked up by manas, one at a time. So here also from manas to five sense organs, there is a transformation 1 into 5, but this is not from manas. This he is saying is from ahankar, manas is made, as well as five senses are made, as well as five motor organs are made. So this is the lower red color diagram, the transformation from ahankar in this direction. And these are instruments of an individual soul. While on the upper line, ahankar transforms 1 into 5. These are five subtle elements which cannot be perceived by my five senses. So there is a in-between step. Ahankar does not give rise to five gross elements. These gross elements can be perceived by my senses, but what Kapil is saying, Ahankar did not become direct five gross elements. That would have been twofold transformation. So he wants to maintain subtle transformation into subtle, but increasing in the number from 1 to 5. And then there is a transformation that these five subtle elements become five gross elements. And five gross elements they emit something because these are objects. They emit a characteristic that is perceivable to my senses. For example, these five have a name: Agni, Vayu, Jal, Ras, and Akash, things like that. So let's look at Agni here. Agni is a gross element that can be perceived by my sight organ, that is called Chakshu. Now, Agni emits a characteristic that is called Roop. So, I am identifying one out of these five, and that same story goes for others. So, Agni, which is loosely translated as fire, but I should not do that. So, because of philosophical reason, fire is not a gross fire. Though these are gross elements, they are still very, very superfine, very, very superfine. They are not as gross as fire, which is visible to me in a candle. So, candle fire does have this element of fire, Agni. That is what makes it emit what is called roop. Some sort of thing is emitted by Agni, and that signal is picked up my organ of Chakshu. So, organ of Chakshu is not my eyeballs. My eyeballs pick up some signals that go on retina and through optic nerves. Finally, near my mind shell, my organ, which is passing the knowledge signal to the manas, that linkage is Chakshu. So at this point, the Chakshu organ, which is my sight organ, is picking up the knowledge signal, data coming from the Agni of an object. And that bundle of data is coming in the form of Roop. That Roop has been picked up by my Chakshu, and that has been transmitted to my Manas. That Manas now transmits to Ahankar, where it has an ability twofold ability, that it can project on my Chitta so that I come to know of it, as well as it can store within itself for my future reference. So if I see something, if I close my eyes, I can retrieve that image again in my mind, isn't it? So these are very intricate things we are talking about. I wish I could go in more detail, but I think this is sufficient. And let's move on. So, there are five elements here, and these are the still subtle form of those elements. So, if we have learned in our high school, as if there are 120 so many basic elements in our periodic table. So, look at it as, in Kapil's view, this is a periodic table of five elements. The magic number five, as I said, is coming from five senses. So he is visualizing our five senses can pick up five kinds of signals. And those five kind of signals are be emitted by certain gross elements. These are called Panchbhut. These are the Sanskrit terms. And that Panchbhut doesn't get made from Ahankar directly. There is an in-between step. From Ahankar, five subtle elements were formed, but they are not amenable to my senses. Then comes the Panchbhut, which are slightly gross, that they can be perceived by my five senses. And of course, from my Ahankar, I have five motor organs. They I have listed as sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. These are kind of my hands. I should not translate again as hand. He's using the term hasta, but proper translation will be manipulation. Because using my hands, I pick up things and manipulate here and there. But suppose my hands are chopped off, still somebody can, manipulate things using his toes, or using his elbow, or using his mouth, using his teeth, isn't it? Somebody picks up a pen using his teeth and then writes, makes a diagram. So that is why I cannot use the word hand for hasta. I hope you understand it. It's a lot of philosophy here. So when my manas This manas is able to manipulate anything. Say I was making a line using a pen which is held by my teeth. I will say I have used the hasta motor organ using my mind. May not be my hands, but I am able to play with that pen. So, in the same way, I may move using my feet, but sometimes somebody crawls, somebody rolls, and is so the word he has used path, we don't always translate as feet, it is translated as locomotion. So, I have the ability to transport myself from place A to place B. So that is a motor organ. I am able to manipulate a thing external to me, whether using my hands or elbows or shoulder or teeth, whatever it is, that is my hasta organ. Then there is a speech organ. Then there is an organ to, to discharge our human waste excretion. Again, there are two branches, not only two branches, we even the sweat, we throw out sweat, we discharge used air through the mouth or nostril. So there are all kinds of human waste is discharged, but in that ability is called as pad, payu. So his word term is payu. So it is basically organs for excretion. And then there is an organ for procreation because I have an ability to give birth to a child. So these are five organs. The ability of manipulation, locomotion, speech, excretion, and procreation. So these are all the kinds of basic network he is suggesting, which we use to in our day-to-day life. But if we understand them in a thorough manner, then that is what is the objective of the human life. So this was 1.26, which took a lot of time because it has a lot of importance. 1.27, now he is going from cause to effect. If you go in this diagram, he is going from left to right. So he is just God's given us the broad picture. Now he's saying if this is the cause, this is the effect, and this is the cause of the next effect, and so on and so forth. Let's look at it. No, I'm sorry. He's going backward here. If you remember, the last time in 1.25 was achakshunana manumanin. He made an that we use the inference anuman to get to know what is not visible to us because these things are not visible to our eyes. So in 1.25, he told us that there are a lot of things known by way of inference. So now he is using that inference method to go from right to left. So from because this is what is perceived five gross element by our five senses. Nobody in the world can deny we don't have five senses. And if we have five senses, we obviously get to know the objects around us. So they must be having five characteristics. So he is now arguing from these effects to the cause that is in the nature of inference, because these are so subtle, we cannot know through the we cannot get to know through our senses. So we are making certain arguments, and that's what is happening in 1.27, where he says sthulat sthulat panchatanmatrasya. So his point is five subtle elements are inferred from five gross elements. So for our record, I have listed them: Prithvi, Jala, Vayu, Akash, and Agni. Again, I hesitate to translate them like this, But this has what become accepted norm. Prithvi translated as earth, Jal as water, Vayu as air, Akash as ether, and Agni as fire. So I have already made certain remarks about fire, so that will hold for all these five elements. So these are five conceptual elements which are named like this so that they can be perceived by our five senses. So this fire is perceived by our organ, namely sight organ, and connectivity is by the term called roop. So fire has a characteristics of roop. This will have certain characteristics, this will have certain. So maybe there is a later opportunity to discuss all this. But this is what he's making an inference that these five must exist. They are the effect of five subtle elements. So he's making an inference of this out of this in 1.27. In 1.28, he's saying, Bahya abhyantayabhyam tescha andhakarasya. Now he's saying, these are our outer organs, and this is our inner organ. So these are outer organs in the sense they connect me to the outer world, and they make me influence the outer world, the organs of knowledge, bring knowledge from the outer world, and organs for action or motor organs help me influence things around me, like and I can push a table, things like that. So this is called as outer organs, and these will be called as inner organs. So he is saying, Bahya abhyantayabhyam. The outer organs as well as this inner organ, this is inferred. For him it is easy to conclude this has to be there. And let me make a remark here because this is very important. This is coming from Nyaya by Gautam. I think in my session 1 I said Sankhya, then Yoga, then third book in the 6 books was Nyaya by Gautam. So his statement is Yugpat Jnananna Bhavati Manaso Lingam. This is Manas. So what he's saying is, because it is seen, we don't acquire knowledge from five senses simultaneously. In real life, if I am absorbed in seeing something, then I miss out somebody's sound, isn't it? If you are so much absorbed in listening to some music, if you are so much, you close your eyes, you are listening, and then if somebody says, well, somebody went past you, didn't you see it? You say, no, I was listening something, I was absorbed there. I missed, I might have seen, but I didn't notice it. Or in first case, when somebody says, when didn't you hear that sound? You will say, I was so much absorbed in seeing that I probably heard the sound, but I was not listening to the sound. So the difference being seeing and noticing, hearing and noticing, hearing and listening is whether this sense organ was connected to the mind or not. If this is connected to the manas, the hearing organ, the sound organ, then I am listening. If my sight organ is connected, then I am seeing something. I am noticing something. So we know it that all these five signals don't end up on my mind screen direct simultaneously. It is one at a time. And of course, we get an impression we are seeing and hearing. That is because it's all happening at a very, very fast speed. Speed of light or even beyond that. Who knows it? Now that is happening because this manas is picking up the sight signal, and very next moment it picks up the sound signal and transmit here, one after another. But all this is happening so fast, it is giving us an impression we are seeing as well as hearing. All this is, we are talking very intricate, fantastic system. Every human being being is endowed with. So this was a remark that this has to be there between me, between five senses and my other inner organs. Otherwise, all these signals will end up here simultaneously, which doesn't happen. That proves that between ahankar and five senses, this device is there, manas is there, linkage is there. So Kapil is saying these 10 organs, which are outer organs, as well as the inner organ, they are also an effect and help me conclude that there is something called ahankar. Then one point, let me read out what I am saying. So in 1.28, the outer organs, five organs for knowledge and five organs for action, total 10. And one inner organ of mind, this 5 plus 5, 10. These are outer organs, and this is one inner organ of mind. Look here, I am translating manas as mind, and this whole thing is also mind. So, and one inner organ of mind are made out of ahankar. I am translating here as the I principle. And so is too with the five subtle elements. So that is the statement number 28. He is saying they come from ahankar, and this is also from. So the journey is from right to left here. These are the effects, and there must be a cause of them. And then 1.29 he says, Tenan antah karanasya. So out of that ahankar, inference is made for the innermost organ, which tentatively I am calling as buddhi. In English, you can call it as intellect, and that is referred to as chitta and mahat as well. So he is basically saying, out of ahankar, inference is made, because this is what I am watching always. This is the mind screen I am watching. So inference is made about my this, or he called antakaran. This is the innermost instrument of mind, and this is 1.29. Out of that, namely ahankar, inference is made for the innermost organ, which is alternatively called as buddhi, intellect. That's where intellectual decision making takes place. I conclude, I decide, I discriminate. My discerning ability. Is it hot or cold? Is it blue or red? All those things are happening at the chitta level. And since I conclude there, it is called buddhi. And when it is merely displaying the image, it is called chitta. And now I think probably I can make a remark. Patanjali calls it chitta because that is the innermost thing, the chitta where modifications take place, and he wants to subdue those modifications. So at the level of chitta, there is an image coming and I am just watching it. First thing is the image comes. Say there is a chair in front of me. If you look at moment by moment, the first thing on my mind screen is the image of the chair. And the very next moment, I conclude this object is a chair. Four legs, this and that. All that knowledge is in my ahankar, my memory. So, but first, please remember, first is that bare image, which I have not yet concluded it is chair. That is why Patanjali is so much concerned that buddhi functioning is the next operation. The function of chit is the very primary, where the image is displayed first. Of course, in day-to-day life, as soon as the image is displayed, as soon as you see a human being, you conclude this is a human being and he is Mr. X. But in that process, first was the display of the image, that is the function of chitta. And on the same I will say desktop, your TV monitor, you have concluded that this is a human being, namely with Mr. X. That was the function of the buddhi. But that also took place on the same instrument. Now, why Patanjali is concerned with Chitta? Because Patanjali wants even the basic images, even not the functioning of Buddhi, even the display of images should vanish. So that is what he says, Chitta Vetti Nirodha. These are very subtle points. I hope you are able to get it. I am, because of short of time, I I am trying to devote as much time as I can give. So, as far as the sequence of material cause is concerned, it ends with Prakriti, the primordial state of matter. So, that is now sorry, I was reading 1.29, that is referred to a Chit and Mahat too. So, Buddhi. Mahat, as I said, was the structural name. Functionally, it is functioning as Chit as well as Buddhi. So, there are three names of what I showed you, fist in the thumb in the fist, the innermost layer. There are three names. Sankhya is using the term Mahat because structurally that is what is made first. Now, functionally, its first primary function is that of Chitta when it displays the image. But this is where I conclude that this image is a chair and is not a desk. That is why it is called Buddhi. Buddhi means functioning, concluding something, deciding it is this and not that, isn't it? That is our discriminating ability. That is our discerning ability. That is what is the human capability. So that is also happening at the level of Chitta. But Patanjali is concerned with Chitta Vetti Niyodha. All the images should vanish. Chitta should be absolutely blank. That is why he uses the term Chitta and not Buddhi. Buddhi means implicitly thinking function. So, even below the thinking is the displaying of the image that also wants to be vanished. So now 1.30 is Tatah Prakirti. So now he's saying out of Chitta we make an inference of Prakriti because, as I have tried to say, due to you are tied up to your Chitta, and in a day you go through all kinds of experiences. All those experiences can come only if there is something called Prakriti, where there are three possible modes of Sattva as a tamas. If there are no three primary colors, you cannot get infinite colors, isn't it? You have to have those three primary colors to generate all kinds of colors. In the same manner, as a human being, at the chitta level, I go through infinite kind of experience. Sometimes I am very, very happy. Sometimes I am very, very sad. Sometimes I am deep in sleep. And all the possible experiences are a mix of these three possibilities. So that is what helps us make an inference that Prakriti is in a raw state when these three modes are in equilibrium. And in Chitta, there is a constant interplay of these three kinds of modes. That's why we have mood swings, we are happy, next moment we are something else. All that is happening in Chitta. Out of this, we make an inference there must be Prakriti. So he's arguing from effect to cause. So we went from right to left in 1.27 to 30. Now he makes one more. This is fantastic inference he's making at 1 point. So 1.30, let me read out of my translation. Out of that buddhi, the innermost organ, because Kapil calls it buddhi, I am using the term buddhi. Inference is made of Prakriti, the ultimate material cause of the universe. As far as the sequence of material cause is concerned, it ends with Prakriti, the primordial state of matter. So this is what Kapil is saying. Let me go through one more section and then I end today. So 1.31, he makes a argument, again making an inference. Is about push, about, so if I constantly go to this diagram, so he argued from here and went From this to this and this to this came here, and then he made an inference of this. Now he will make an inference about this, which is called push. This is 1.31. The statement is Sanghat Payathatvat. So that, let me read the translation. Matter manifests for a conscious being, as a chair exists not for itself but for a conscious being. So he is drawing our attention that anything in the world, any object, always is for some conscious being, isn't it? A carpenter made a chair not for itself. A chair doesn't sit on another chair. It is so that a human being, conscious being, can make use of it, can enjoy it, so to say, isn't it? And that argument he is making, that all this is stations of matter, like a carpenter transforms a log of wood into a wooden chair. This is transformation of a matter, material entity. Wood has been transformed. Now, this transformation, he does it for a purpose that a chair will be utilized by a conscious human being. Now, that is what we see in the world. An automobile is made, a computer is made, all kinds of human systems. So, he is now making an argument that if these are all our instruments, these are also our superfine innermost instruments. They are also made. Somehow these things have been created for some conscious being, and that consciousness is called push. So let me read that translation. Matter manifests for a conscious being, as a chair exists not for itself but for a conscious being. Hence, inference is made of a push, the tiny soul that undergoes no transformation. So that will be his constant line of argument, that transformation, manifestation, anything that change has to be a thing made of matter, and that is happening for something which undergoes no change, and that is me, my push, my tiny soul. So he is saying creation is to be enjoyed or experienced, which is the word is bhogya, by push. So now this technical term will come very often, bhog. So when something reaches up to my chitta level, then it becomes an experience for me. I connect to it, and that makes me feel something. That is my bhog. So, like I sit on a chair, I feel comfortable. So, through my organs of touch, that sense of comfort goes up to my chit, and yes, this chair is very comfortable to me, isn't it? So that is that has got registered on chitta, and when it gets registered on chitta, the Purush comes to know of it. And that when he feels it is comfortable to me, he has experienced, he has done the bhog of the chair. That's the way we will be talking in future. So besides enjoyment, now Kapil is reminding us the purpose of creation is moksha. These are the two words coming very often. Bhog and moksha. And that sometimes I will use the word apvarga. But don't get confused, more and more Sanskrit words coming, but these are technical terms. So moksha, upward, is attained when the individual push succeeds in self-realization, deep in meditation. That is attained with the help of instruments that are formed from transformations of Prakriti. What Kapil is trying to say is, all this is for somebody who is conscious, and that is the soul. And then there are two purposes that will be discussed in detail. One purpose is the bhog, so that I experience. When all this information goes up to there, I feel something. I get an experience. It may be pleasure or pain or whatever it is. That is called as bhog. Then he is reminding us This is not only the purpose of the whole creation. Through these instruments only, you will master them, you will learn the meditation techniques, and you will be able to subdue your chitta, and then you will gain true self realization. You are different from this chitta, and that will help you attain the final objective of human life, Vivek Khyati. So that's where we want to end today. Sorry, it has been slightly longish, but we started 2 minutes late because this. But everything is fine. See you. Let me come on the. So see you next week. And I have an idea how fast or how slow we are going. I will tailor the course accordingly. Thank you all very much. See you next Monday.